I'm back in our tracking service, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to modify this code so that when we set a goal, if you try to set a goal that is less than 0, it will throw an exception. What we'll do is we'll say if value is less than 0, then we're going to throw a new, and we'll call this invalid goal exception. And we'll need to create this exception class. And we'll just have it inherit from exception. Now our tracking service is going to throw this exception. Now we'll need to fix this real quick. Let's go ahead and make this so that this throws this exception. We'll add that throws declaration. And if we go back to our unit tests, we can add a test to check for that exception being thrown. What we'll do here is we'll say at test, and then we're going to use this expected. We're going to say expected equals, and then we're going to put invalid goal exception dot class. Now we can declare our test just like we normally would. We'll say public void when goal is set to less than 0, exception is thrown. Go ahead and import this. Then we're going to try to call on our service. We'll say service.setGoal, and we'll set the value equal to, let's just do -5. And now because we're using this method, we'll have to add this throws. Go ahead and do that. And let's go ahead and run this test and see what happens. If we run all of our tests, you can see here that all 4 of our tests pass. And the reason why our test pass on this exception is thrown is because it did throw an exception. Now, if we didn't throw an exception, this would fail. Let's take a look at that case. If we just comment out this code, so we no longer do this check, then we try and rerun our tests. You notice that this one fails, and it fails because it expected this exception, but the exception wasn't thrown. So this is a really useful feature that you can utilize if you want to test for a particular exception. A lot of times when you're designing a class, that class needs to throw an exception under a circumstance like this. Now in our case, we could probably handle this by making the goal be 0, but it's also a valid scenario to have this throw an exception, and if it does, we want to be able to test for that exception.